Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of the Life Sciences Investor Forum and our co-host, Zach Small Cap Research, we're very pleased you joined us for our quarterly conference. Our next live presentation is from Avicanna. And Avicanna is a commercial stage biopharma company focused on the advancement of medical applications of cannabinoids. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides, and you can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book Meeting tab in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Aras Azadian. He's the founder and chief executive officer of Avicanna, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol AVCNF and on the TSX under the symbol AVCN. Welcome back, Aras.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Good morning, folks. Thank you for the opportunity to present Avicanna. As John mentioned, I'm the founding CEO. So we started the company, what is now about 10 years ago. We are what we believe are global leaders in terms of cannabinoid-based medicine, which ranges from medical products that are in various jurisdictions today to pharmaceutical applications. And today I'm going to provide an overview of our story, of our evolution, and really where we stand today, which we believe is the most exciting phase of the company's history. Furthermore, I'll provide a couple of minutes at the end, somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes for additional questions that the audience may have. Today, I think it's important to just highlight we are a commercial stage company. We sort of are building a bit of a hockey stick shape in terms of the revenue growth and profitability. Record revenues across last year. We haven't filed Q4 or year end, which we will be doing in 2 weeks. But as of end of Q3, we were demonstrating what I believe is industry leading gross margins at about 57% in the quarter. Our 9-month revenue was 18.8 million, which is a 75% growth from the previous year. And we're on track or are on track for 2025 to be a profitable, if it's a positive and profitable year. From a platform perspective, I think it's really important to highlight Avicanna is really a combination of two very important platforms. One is our scientific platform, which is really the basis of the company's history. We are originally a drug delivery system company that was incepted out of a Johnson & Johnson incubator in Mars here in Toronto. From there, we've evolved into various preclinical and clinical development that allowed us to build what we believe is an industry-leading platform for proprietary cannabinoid-based medical and pharmaceutical products, an extensive pharmaceutical pipeline. And really, these formulations, these unique advanced drug delivery systems are the basis of our products that have now led to our commercialization plans and into our commercial platforms, which today has resulted in over 30 products that have come from the lab into the market across 4 really commercial units, which I'll expand on. And so we've been able to do this at an international level. So because we operate at a medical and pharmaceutical level only, we get to play the international game. And so far, we've been able to transact in 21 international markets. What's really important is the major distinction that I often have to make, more so in Canada, but also in international markets, which is what is the difference between recreational and medical? And this is really the thesis of the company. This is really how we incepted our original vision. Medical for us is very different than recreational, and medical is to a certain extent different than pharmaceutical applications. And I just want to spend a couple of minutes on just distinguishing the difference. Major differences, the end users. Adult use, the end users are consumers. They have consumer preferences, and they make those changes as a consumer would in terms of their preferences. When you're thinking about the end user of medical or pharmaceutical, these are patients. Patients tend to be stickier. In terms of market opportunity, as I alluded earlier, international is for a company to export cannabis or medical cannabis internationally has to be under R&D medical or pharmaceutical applications. It is against the single convention of narcotics of the United Nations to export cannabis recreationally. So when we look at market opportunities as a medical-only company, we look at it at a global level. Product forms, we are more on the advanced drug delivery systems, which in turn creates higher margin opportunities and entry barriers, where on the adult use or recreational side, they're looking at more consumer-driven products, which are today mainly inhalable and flower products that tend to commodify over time. Of course, IP protection is an important one. Margins I've alluded to. In terms of the key stakeholders, so again, within the recreational side, it's the bud tenders and the dispensaries, and in the case of Canada, provincial boards. where on the medical side, it's actually the healthcare providers, medical institutions, and thought leaders, the likes of which we collaborate with. So these are just some of the sort of basic differentiations. And I've found that this is helpful for various audiences to kind of provide that distinction, because again, our positioning from history, from the beginning of our history has been strictly medical. As I mentioned, we started off in the Mars Discovery District in Toronto, which is, the Silicon Valley of biotech here in Canada. And from there, we went into pretty important, distinct relationships with the likes of Faculty of Pharmacy of University of Toronto and major clinical institutions such as UHN, Sunnybrook Cancer Center. And from there, as we built our pipeline, we actually ended up doing a full IPO on the TSX big board as a pharmaceutical issuer, which is something that we take a lot of pride in. And then from there, actually converted the business model to a certain extent, and we pivoted to medical cannabis commercialization. So we took our pharmaceutical pipeline and we commercialized them into medical cannabis applications, which not only generated data and proof of concept, but allowed us to generate substantial amount of evidence in terms of the utility of these various formulations and products across a range of clinical applications, and in fact, take some of our pharmaceutical pipeline targets and conduct observational studies. That led to a great relationship with Shoppers Drug Mart, which is the largest pharmacy chain in Canada, where they had a medical cannabis division. That led to us acquiring that division 2 years later, which we've now converted into MyMedi. And as of last year, MyMedi is, I believe, one of the most complete and comprehensive medical cannabis platforms in the world, with a full service of patient support and medical training that we are providing. And this is something that really will be the basis of the future of the company as well. Last year, we had, again, the most successful year. We also got the approval of our first pharmaceutical application, which is for pediatric epilepsy conditions under the brand Trunerox. Speaking about the major four pillars, just so I can kind of simplify our business model, we have our Rho Phytos, our medical cannabis products. So this is a formulary of CBD, CBG, and THC products that are offered across a range of different pharmaceutical applications. MyMedi is our medical cannabis platform. This is essentially an online pharmacy and an online patient support program. Our pharmaceutical pipeline, which hopefully I have a couple of minutes to talk about. And then Aureus is our supply chain division, where we are producing active pharmaceutical ingredients for various medical and pharmaceutical products and partners. So not just for Avicanna's products, but we're also fulfilling orders for other pharmaceutical companies. Going back to Rho Phyto, as I mentioned, are advanced drug delivery systems. So none of these formulations are inhalable. So one of the major, strategic positioning statements that we made from Rho Phyto is that we will not go down the inhalation pathway. This will be a harm reduction strategy in a sense. We're going to be delivering cannabinoids in a more standardized, accurately dosed manner, but also delivering cannabinoids in particular ratios and delivery systems that have particular utility for clinical indications. For example, if we're targeting pain or localized pain, osteoarthritis, we're utilizing a drug delivery system of a transdermal gel that actually diffuses the drug into the joints and muscles. If we're talking about but without the harms associated. So this is our formulary. This is about 30 SKUs. All of these products have been commercialized in Canada, generating a ton of evidence across a number of different real-world observational or retrospective studies. And that data really helps us to learn more about these products, to educate the medical community about these products, but also to signal opportunities for our therapeutic or pharmaceutical pipeline. These products are available on MyMedi. They're available across a number of other medical platforms in Canada that are named here in terms of Spectrum, Catafarms, etc. And they're available across provincial boards. Particular SKUs are available across particular provincial boards as well. Going into MyMedi, so MyMedi again was built on the back of 7 years of development by Shoppers Drug Mart. They had built a diverse and I believe comprehensive medical cannabis platform called Medical Cannabis by Shoppers Drug Mart. Based on a very fruitful relationship and partnership with Shoppers Drug Mart, we ended up acquiring that division and built a bit of a transition for the patients. We were able to provide continuation of care for those patients and take really 7 years of learnings of Shoppers Drug Mart and further enhance them with the Avicanna sort of medical and pharmaceutical vision and philosophy. And today, MyMedi is a preferred vendor partner with some of the largest insurance providers in Canada, including private and public, such as WSIB. About 70% of our revenue is actually generated from providers, insurance providers and payers, which means insurance patients are not paying out of pocket. It's a diverse portfolio. It doesn't just include Avicanna's products, but we're working with some of the largest and most significant Canadian licensed producers that are exclusively selling their products on MyMedi, for example, Organigram when it comes to medical applications. We have built our own patient support program, which is a number of pharmacists and medical affairs personnel, including customer service agents, that are helping patients to have the best opportunity to have efficacy in terms of the patient journey mapping. Meaning versus a dispensary where a bud tender is providing that advice, we are actually going in and helping these patients. We're looking at things like drug-to-drug interaction. We're providing things such as dosing and titration guidelines, which I believe is unique to MyMedi, and it's something that we will be translating into other markets. Education and training is a huge part of what we do in terms of medical affairs. We host annual symposiums in Canada, or in Toronto specifically, where we bring in a lot of the key opinion leaders and we talk about the advancements of evidence, which we believe is very important. And it's worth noting, again, in Canada, because we are operating under federal legislation, we're permitted to conduct these type of studies, these type of efforts, and these type of sort of collaborations with key opinion leaders. And that's really what's setting the stage for us to be able to ultimately advance our pharmaceutical pipeline. In our pharmaceutical pipeline, we target three major areas. Sleep is obviously a large one. That's about 40% of our medical cannabis use today in Canada is sleep. We're looking at very specific orphan disease designations. We have a drug candidate for EB, epidermolysis bullosa, which is now ready to proceed into a phase 2 study. We're looking at pain management as a major area. We have several studies that are associated to that. And then as we go towards neurological disorders, epilepsy, and of course, anxiety and depression. And as such, we have 4 drug candidates at our various stages. One, Trunerox, is already approved in Colombia for Lennox-Gastaut and Dravet syndrome, which are pediatric catastrophic epilepsy conditions. But in addition to that, we have a wound healing, which is epidermolysis bullosa drug candidate. As I mentioned, we're looking at other clinical indications, including osteoarthritis as well. Okay, Trunerox is our first pharmaceutical application. So this is really our epilepsy drug that has already been approved. We're quite happy with the progress that we've made in terms of getting this product approved. Now we're in the stages of commercialization of this product. So we're quite excited to see the effect that of a low-cost epilepsy drug can bring into the various markets, starting with Colombia. A lot of learnings from this product were actually developed in Canada. We have the same SKU commercialized under Rofito as a medical cannabis product, and we've been able to work with some of the world-renowned neurologists and epilepsy experts in Canada that have allowed us to test these products in patient populations that have had incredible results. So very excited to see how this does. This product is manufactured in our Colombian operations in terms of the cannabinoids are produced in Colombia, where we have our own production, and then we're transferred to manufactured under a GMP pharmaceutical plant. This is a good segue to our API division. So while we're a Canadian-based company, our headquarters are in Canada, our R&D clinical efforts are predominantly in Canada. Our raw material division is actually in Santa Marta, Colombia, where we're leveraging off of the perfect ecosystem here in the Sierra Nevada region, where we are producing CBD, CBG, and THC flower at a very, very high quality, at a very economical price. And we're able to use that flower for export purposes and also extract that flower into the active pharmaceutical ingredients, which is something we've been conducting for the last 7 years. So this division was originally built to be our supply chain for Avicanna's own pharmaceutical and medical applications. But today, given the competitive advantages that we have, we're actually able to produce a significant amount of product that we can then commercialize as API, as sort of raw materials for various medical and pharmaceutical companies. And this is something that we're conducting and have so far exported out of Colombia, I believe, in about 19 countries. Just moving on so we can have a little bit of time for commercialization. I think this is quite important, especially for the United States audience. I know there's a lot of frustration with the lack of progress in terms of pharmaceutical products, in terms of the legalization for medical and pharmaceutical products in the US, and also safe banking and things like that for the adult use side in the US. But while the US has been stagnant and liberalization has been slowed down, what is remarkable is the advancements made around the rest of the world. On a weekly basis, we're seeing further liberalization efforts, especially on the medical side and other markets, including European Union and South America. And while, again, the US has been halted in a sense, we are seeing significant progress, which is really exciting for a company like us that operates at a global level. And we look at the medical cannabis opportunity as a global opportunity. And so far, we've been able to transact in north of 20 countries. On the scientific platform, I think I covered a lot of this. I think it's just very important to allude to the fact that, you know, we own all of our IP. Everything's developed ground up in Avicanna. All the medical professionals and the scientific professionals are Avicanna employees. We outsource some of our development to some of the largest academic and clinical institutions in Canada that we partner with. These are all renowned. You know, Sick Kids is the second largest children's hospital, I think, in North America, #1 in Canada. Sunnybrook Cancer Center, one of the most important cancer centers. These are the top key opinion leaders and leading clinical and academic institutions in Canada and in many cases the world. And we're very proud to have been able to partner with them for the last 8-9 years to really advance cannabinoid-based research, clinical efficacy, and also put out the most comprehensive programs that are products that are backed by evidence into various markets. And I believe Canada has a leadership position, and we're very proud to have been partnered with these institutions to allow us to do the right things. From a financials perspective, I've highlighted some of that early on. You know, we're certainly seeing revenue growth. We're seeing gross profit improvements. We're seeing EBITDA improvements year over year. The financial statements and the fundamentals have been remarkable. I think that's a result of us doing things the right way and really prioritizing and staying focused on medical and doing so in a way that is efficient, you know, given the sector and given the access to capital limitations. We've really built a business model that allows us to be self-reliant and self-sufficient today and to use our existing commercial business models, which is our singles and doubles, really to fund the home runs, which is internationalization of medical and pharmaceutical applications, but again, in a very efficient, low capital burn model. From a management and board perspective, you know, we all come from professional walks of life. Myself, I've been the CEOC for over 9 years now. A lot of our executive team have been with us for a very long time, and we've really evolved through the journey and through the pains of the medical cannabis or cannabis industry as a whole, and are now in a position to further differentiate ourselves from specifically the recreational side of the sector and really be the global leaders on cannabinoid-based medicine and its potential liberalization internationally. So I'll stop here. I see there's some questions, so I can, you know, obviously set some time to answer some of these questions. I see one of them. Are you on a fiscal calendar year? You're providing guidance for 2025 revenues. We'll be providing our fiscal year ends in December. Our year ends December 31st, 2024. So we'll be providing that end of this month. So we'll be filing year end and Q4 2024 results. We have not decided if we're providing guidance for 2025 revenue as of yet. Will you be able to commercialize Trunerox in other countries and when? I think that's a great question. So the easy answer is yes. Trunerox is already approved in Colombia, and that allows for some reciprocal approvals within sort of the Latin, Central America, and parts of South America, which will be conducted after the Trunerox commercialization. Trunerox is 10% CBD, similar to Epidiolex, which was approved for the same clinical indications. So we believe, you know, while Epidiolex has been extremely successful in developed markets, including the United States, Trunerox has the opportunity to really be the developing market, lower cost version of Epidiolex. And given our cost advantages, specifically with controlling our own supply chain and API, we believe that we can commercialize Trunerox into more of these developing markets at a very affordable rate and still have, you know, a lucrative or feasible business model on our end as well. About our capital position of funding needs. Today, you know, it's been a long journey in terms of capital financings. I think we take a lot of pride in being able to keep the cap table tight to whatever extent we could. We've raised capital from strategic partners and an existing shareholder base over the last 3 years. As if anyone looks up, they will be able to see that we were able to conduct a number of private placements, all non-brokered, led by myself and the management team, always in small amounts. And today, I believe we're in a position where we have become self-sufficient. I believe we're in a position where, you know, our strategic operations and our commercial operations are allowing us to fund really our own growth in-house. So at these current valuations, we're not seeking to do any type of capital raise in the short term. What are your key milestones for 2025 and biggest impediments to growth? I think in 2025, some of the major milestones we expect are going to be some strategic initiatives and partnerships that we're starting to discuss and we're starting to announce. There's going to be some really exciting new developments with some of the larger companies from outside of the industry that are now entering. And I think we've had the luxury and the pleasure of being sort of appointed as a lead within the medical and pharmaceutical applications of cannabinoids. So there will be some collaborations and partnerships that are going to mature. I think we will see further revenue growth across all the business units because now we're in a position to reinvest within our commercial platforms and actually show a clear pathway to profitability and achieve profitability, which I think is quite important. And then third part that I'm quite excited about is really the clinical milestones. We're going to be announcing and completing very exciting projects that finally we've been in a position to reinvest in, which is really our R&D pipeline and our pharmaceutical applications. So there will be a lot of exciting developments that I think will arise from there, which will further validate and segment Avicanna as really a true leader within the cannabinoid business side. That's all the questions I had. Well, thanks, folks. Appreciate it. Thanks you for your time. I might have rushed through the presentation a little bit fast, but the presentation will be available. You can contact us at info@avicanna.com, or you can contact me on LinkedIn at any time. Happy to take questions and happy to continue to share our updates as we make advancements this year.